Hi guys, Miss Phipps here. Today we're going to do a lesson on sensory writing. So we're going to carry on with our fiction writing, but thinking about using sensory details to create more, add more detail and create a more vivid image for our reader. So if we have a look here, writers employ the five senses to create a more vivid image for the reader. So you want to be using the different senses to really draw in the reader to your description. And sensory details include sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Obviously, taste we probably wouldn't use that often, but sight we use all the time in our creative writing, sound and smell. Touch, you might do this in terms of what your character is feeling in the image or how your character is feeling as well. So those are the different details that we're going to be looking at today. The vocabulary that I want you to include today is as follows. So the first word that I want you to be using is shrouded. So shrouded is a verb, and if something is shrouded, it is covered, cannot be seen clearly. That doesn't make sense. If something is shrouded, it is covered, so cannot be seen clearly. So you might describe a person as being shrouded in an item of clothing, so they're completely covered by it and they can't be seen. The second word is putrid, which is an adjective. Something that is putrid has decayed and smells very unpleasant, so a very horrible smell you describe as being putrid. And then the last one is an adjective as well, and it is decrepit. So if something is decrepit, it's old and in a bad condition. So you might describe an old, crumbling, decaying house as being decrepit because it's in bad condition and not really looked after properly. So as well as our sensory details, these are some of the words that I would like you to be using today. So the first thing we're going to start by doing is I'm going to give you 3 examples. So I want you to read through these examples. You want to pause the video and read through these. And I want you to be thinking about this success criteria. So this is the success criteria that you're going to be meeting at the end of this lesson when you do some writing yourself. So the first one is description of specific sounds. So our first sensory detail is sounds, what we can hear. This is my image down here, but you're going to have a different one. The second part of the success criteria is description of specific smells. So what sort of things can you smell from your image? Description of specific visual details, probably the easiest one because we do that all the time. What specific things from your image are you going to be describing? Clear character actions and feelings. So either you or your character, depending on whether you're writing in first or third person. What is your character feeling? How are they, reacting to the setting? How are they reacting to these different sensory details? And then your ambitious vocabulary, so the words that I gave you at the beginning. Shine, thinking about using similes and personification to enhance your description. So if you think about some of the things that we did in our lessons last week, hopefully you can include some similes and personification. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, read through this example. You can do that now. And then I want you to, again, pause the video, read through this second example. And then here's the third example. So pause the video again, read through this example, have a look at the success criteria. And hopefully you will agree that this one is the best. So it's just a lot more detailed. It's got lots of similes, personification in there. It's using the vocabulary. It's clear how the character is feeling. If you look down the bottom here, it filled my stomach with dread. I edged cautiously towards the house, reaching out my hand to touch its damp, unwelcoming bricks, and prayed that the ravens would not come searching for me today. So it's very clear how the character is feeling and what they're doing within this narrative. And also the sentence structure, the sentence types in this one. I hope you would agree that they are much better. If you have a think about what we did last week, we started off looking at our different sentence types. This model utilizes more of a variety of sentence types, so that helps it stand out more as well. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to do a bit of drilling, have a practice of using some of our sensory details, some sensory vocabulary. We're going to start quite simple using our simple sentences. I've shown you my image. This is the image that I want you guys to be using today. And we're going to just start with this simple sentence structure for what you can smell. So the adjective, smell noun of, noun phrase, verb, the noun. That probably doesn't make sense at the moment, but hopefully when you see my examples, that will become clearer and will be quite easy for you. So we've got the putrid odour of decaying fungus filled the forest. So putrid, one of our keywords, that's an adjective. My smell noun, so we've got odour here and aroma. These are different words for smell. So the putrid odour of decaying fungus. So my noun phrase, decaying fungus, fungus, the noun, and then decaying is describing this fungus here. The verb, what's it doing? Well, it's filling, and it's filling the noun, which is forest. So if you have a look at my second example, the unpleasant aroma of rotting wood surrounded the house. So we've got the adjective unpleasant, the noun, smell noun aroma, the noun phrase rotting wood, what it's doing, surrounding, and it's surrounding the house. So if you have a look down here, you've got my shine task as well. I know I said about similes and personification, but we're going to come to that in a little while. Can you add a semicolon and second main clause to your sentence? So you're basically turning your simple sentence into two simple sentences separated by your semicolon. We've got the putrid odour of decaying fungus filled the forest. Nothing good was to be found here. So if you think back to our lesson on semicolons, hopefully you could find that quite easy. So I want you to practice this simple sentence structure, picking out some things from your image. You know, what different things do you think you would be able to smell? I've got some examples here for you if you can't think of any of your own. So mud, that would be here. That would be our blue bit would be, you know, what we are describing. So we're describing the aroma of, you know, something mud and what it's doing. So we've got mud, stale air, damp grass, swampy marshlands, mouldy gravestones. Those are just some examples. You don't have to use those, but they are there to help you. And I'd like you to choose at least 3 of these to write your own examples of. If you need help, check the next slide for some vocabulary. So we've got different nouns for smell. So stench, aroma, scent, odour, and some different adjectives that we could use: it putrid, rotten, rancid, decaying, unpleasant. Hopefully you find those useful. So I want you to pause the video again. I want you to write 3 of your own sentences using your image, and you can use the next little bit with the vocabulary to help you. Okay, so pause the video now and do that. And now we will come on to sound. So we're going to do complex sentences for what you can hear. So again, here's your image. Think about what you can hear. And we've got adjective / adverb subordinate clause. So our bit at the beginning, our extra bit of information that doesn't make sense but on its own. And then the noun phrase, sound verb, preposition, noun. Again, you're probably like, that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to show you my examples. So we've got vulnerable and decrepit. Vulnerable and decrepit, they are adjectives. Vulnerable and decrepit, that doesn't make sense as a sentence by itself on its own. It is a subordinate clause, and it's telling me about the aging house that groaned in agony. So noun phrase, we've got the aging house. Sound verb, what is it doing? It's groaning. And in is my preposition, agony. And then my second one, menacingly, the angry wind howled throughout the forest. Again, menacingly this time is an adverb, and that's our subordinate clause. The angry wind, so my noun phrase is the angry wind. What is it doing? It's howling. Where's it howling? Throughout the forest is my noun. So again, if you need some help, you can go on to the next, watch the next bit to get that vocab again. And I want you to write your own sound complex sentences. So here are some things you could describe from yours: the wind, the crows, the tree branches, the sound of thunder, anything else that you can think of in terms of sound. And then my shine task, can you add another subordinate clause to the end of your sentence? So we've got a subordinate clause at the beginning, but can you add one to the end as well? So we're going to need another comma, and then we're going to need to add in another subordinate clause. So if you have a look at my example, menacingly, the angry wind howled throughout the forest, relentlessly battering the house. So I've got my extra bit of extra information at the end there. So pause the video again, and again, I want you to write 3 of your own sound complex sentences. Okay, do that now. And then we're going to move on to the last planning task, which is sight. We're going to end with an easy one. Usually we'd start with an easy one, but we're ending with an easy one because it's the easiest sense to write about, really. brainstorm the different nouns that you might pick out to describe from your image. Think of at least one adjective to describe each. So I might describe the thick mist or the choking mist, the naked branches of the trees. Those are just some examples. Think about the things that you can pick out of your image, and then Shine, can you write up these into sentences using similes or personification? Okay, so I might describe the, what do you call them? Tiles, the tiles of the house, like falling to the floor like tears, maybe. So again, pause the video. Try and think of maybe at least, we'll go with at least 3, but I think 5 is probably a good number from your image. And then we're going to move on and bring all of these things together into a paragraph. So pause the video and give that a go. And then final task then, I want you to have a look back at my model here. And I want you to write your own description or narrative about the image below using a variety of sensory details. So I want you to use, some of these sentences that you've been practicing, put them together into your own paragraph. If you have a look at mine, we've got the description of specific sounds. So vulnerable and decrepit, the aging house groaned in agony. It had stood isolated and alone for centuries in this forgotten place. No life lingered nearby, and all hope had long since left the place. So we've got the visual details as well. Menacingly, the angry wind howled through the trees, relentlessly battering the house. One of my sentences from earlier, describing the sound. Like tears, its cracked and broken tiles splashed to the floor, throwing up fragments of fired clay at its grey stone walls. So we've got visual details again. It was shrouded in a blanket of mould. The putrid odour of this decaying fungus filled the forest and warned off any curious wildlife from entering the area. I've got my smells. The ominous squawk of ravens in the distance echoed like sirens, reminding me that I was alone in this hostile wilderness. They called to one another, a threatening song of sorts, and filled my stomach with dread. I edged cautiously towards the house, reaching my hand to touch its damp, unwelcoming bricks, and prayed that the ravens would not come searching for me today. So my final little bit here, we've got clear character actions, feelings, how I'm feeling within this setting. More sounds. I've used all of 3 of my ambitious vocabulary, and I've done the Shine task as well. Well done if you spotted my similes personification. For example, the aging house that groaned in agony. A house can't really feel pain. It can't really groan. My simile here, like tears, the angry wind howling, if you're thinking about, an animal howling. And here we go. The ravens squawking in the distance, they echoed like sirens. I've got a simile there. So your task today, use my model to help you, but you are doing it about your own image. Use some of the sentences that you have been putting together yourself and write your own paragraph. And then I would like you to email it through to me or upload it onto Google Classroom. And I can't wait to read your writing. Thanks, everyone. See you later on.